Hello, my friends, and welcome to Something Random. Something I actually found on my newsfeed on MSN.com. Now, of course, you know where I live is California. I had one of them days. It wasn't a bad day, but it was one of those days in which, I feel like I really need to get something. And I did get something. I did get myself some popcorn because I got some anime that I plan to watch later. As well as I got myself some Folgers coffee because I hadn't had coffee in like freaking long ass while. And I got the door open because, well, why not? It has been been hearing fireworks all day, daggum day long. All weekend long. But by the time I put this up, well, would it matter? No, of course not. And then, of course, earlier, while shopping, or coming back from shopping, all I did was I saw some crazy old whore out in the street, stopping a bus, getting her dumbass run over. And so, upon coming home and looking this up, that strangeness that I had today, which is on the 8th, it literally gave me some strange ass inspiration to do a video about 33 people sharing the fastest way they've ever seen their coworker get fired. Daggum dog. Sometimes when dog has to say something, they need to say something. And sometimes when you don't want to hear the damn dog, you don't tell them to shut up. You close the door on. So, this comes from Ask Reddit, because why not? So, we're going to look at the 33 fastest ways that people have ever seen their coworker get fired. Okay. So, while some people play video games to relax or experience a good story or whatever, speedrunning games takes it to a whole new level. Speedrunning a game takes skill, commitment, perfect reflexes, and a whole lot of practice. And on top of that, it gets boring as I don't know what. Many people commend speedrunners for their sheer aptitude to run through a game like no other. And it still gets boring as all hell. It's impressive to say the least. For me, look, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. Now, apply the same formula to folks who got fired from a job more or less as soon as they got hired for it. A recent Ask Reddit dealt with this very question of what's the quickest way you saw a coworker get fired. And you'd be surprised to learn how many folks attempted a world record at this point. It's actually impressive. Number 1. Worked at a bank. We robbed at gunpoint. One of the tellers was quick to tweet out, "Woo! Get the rest of the day off! Feel free to visit me at work and with a gun and ski mask anytime." Fired upon walking in next morning. Yeah, don't do that. 2. Evidently robbed a bank on their lunch break. Came back like nothing happened. Then the cops showed up and took him down. It's crazy. Number 3. Coworker got promoted to team lead. Posted employee for my team. Once the employee was reporting to him, he starts threatening the employee's immigration work visa status. Employee goes right to HR. He's Indian, but he's not on visa. He's a citizen. Dude went from promoted due to excellent performance to fired for being a racist fuck in about 2 days. Looks good on him. Now apply the same formula to folks Oh, moving on. Number 4. As a teenager, I worked at a bowling alley. Within an hour, a new employee was fired because she dropped a ball on a complaining patron's foot. Ouch. Number 5. In my old office, a firm-wide email was sent out announcing the arrival of a new employee. We'll call him Paul. So Paul decided to reply all to let us know that he was aware of our recent legal defeats, that many people should be fired for these failures, and that his hiring was the first good thing our firm had done in years. The dude was a legal assistant right out of college with no experience. Minute after the email went out, I heard a crazy shout, and then one of our senior partners run past my office toward HR, and 5 minutes later, Paul walked past with the HR manager and a security escort. He lasted less than 45 minutes. And I can tell you this right now, it is not right in company offices. Take that as you will. Number 6. Idiot pressed the emergency stop for fun on his second day at work. The emergency stop that he hit switches off all the drives on the 100-meter long paper machine. This means there's a loss of production for 3 to 4 hours for the entire paper mill. Was immediately escorted from the factory premises by 2 colleagues. Don't try that, please. If it's a paper mill, oh, don't fuck with that, please. I'm a writer. If ever I ran a business of my own to where I have an industry running, the last thing I want to stop is the paper. It's hard to explain why some employees choose to do intellectually questionable things at work. Hell, it's often hard to pinpoint why people do stupid things in general. I live in California. I see stupid things now more than I did when I was 20 years old. Some venture to say that it's stress. Yeah. Even the smartest people can succumb to the pressures of it. You see, stress inhabits your brain from working in unison with all of the other faculties. In turn, it can't coordinate well, and so bad decisions happen. No, there's bad decisions and what the fuck, man. This is more like what the fuck over that's a bad decision. Number 7. When I was in high school, I used to do seasonal work at haunted houses, which I did for 4 years. A new guy that they hired was supposed to help with parking. Now, in the 3 years that I worked at this haunted house, they never once charged people for parking. It was a very dark parking lot off a cliff, so had to make sure no one drove off it trying to park. This cheeky sumbitch started charging people $5 a park. It was only found out after someone complained because they didn't have the money to go in with their friends because they had to pay for parking. I think the guy was only there for a couple hours before he got fired. Number 8. I was working at Denny's. They hired a new manager. They were onboarding her for her first day. Then I never saw her again, and nobody had even mentioned her. After a couple days, I asked what happened to her. I figured she was working a different shift, or she possibly had gotten COVID. Nope. They just caught her smoking crack on camera. Number 9. I saw a barista brushing his teeth in front of the espresso machine. I made a gesture to the manager as she walked in, and they both walked out together, like instant fire. I've seen worse. I've seen somebody actually do the following. It's a Chinese restaurant. It was a Szechuan Chinese restaurant. Saw somebody picking their nose, or it was either picking their nose or they were killing a roach, or they seen some roaches run in and kill it and probably put it in the food. We never went back to that place to this very day. I'm glad Tim like I don't want I don't want that special sauce in my chow mein, thank you. Why does it taste like it's extra gooey? Ew. So why does it taste like bug eggs? Oh. Sorry, why does it taste like bug eggs? Ah! Others suggest deeper causes like bad habits or self-confidence. In the case of the former, unlearning things is harder than learning, and bad habits embedded through poor practice or lack of it altogether, among other things, can lead to equally bad results. Bullshit it does. Number 10. Pulling into a parking lot on the first day. Ran into a light pole that took out electricity to the whole site. Wasn't wearing a seatbelt, was thrown into the front window. When we went to see what had happened, she reeked of booze and there were empty liquor bottles in the back of the car. She never made it to the front door. Got a guest badge or started her orientation training. Ugh. Number 11. Early in my career, I was an engineer on a refinery in the UK, and I was in charge of the QC lab. By law, we had to have external independent testing on the refinery fuel products to confirm they comply with government regulations. Seemed getting a job for the testing company was that you had to be an adult and had a driver's license. Lab had a lot of very nasty chemicals either being tested or used in the testing or cleaning of the old products. New young girl turned up for the testing company and was dipping her finger into a chemical phenol and stating that it makes your hand and arm go numb. Phenol's a severe muscle relaxant, including your heart, and can kill you at very low concentrations. 1 hour into her employment, we had paramedics on scene monitoring her vitals and was released after 8 hours. She didn't last the first hour of the day, and the testing company was fined pretty heavily. That should tell you something. Number 12. They got hired and then fell asleep during a meeting the first day and was not asked to come back. This is besides things like success promoting stupidity, because it's easier to learn from failure. Reacting being easier than focusing, as folks tend to lose sight of long-term goals in favor of reactions, making folks feel important. And blocking learning, as you need to be confident enough to believe what you know and humble enough to admit you are wrong. This is very true. This is why when I was working let me say this again. When I was working as an intern, I was more like a TA more than an intern. And the thing I've learned to do was ask. So it's kind of like when I do Let's Plays now, or when I get requests, I always ask first. If it's not there, I'm gonna ask. So this is what I learned to do. I've learned to ask. How do you want it? Is there a certain formula you want me to cover? I always ask that because I don't want to be told one thing and say, you did it wrong. And say, well, I asked you. And you never told me exactly how you wanted me to do this. So it's always good to ask. Just so you know, until they say, oh, you're doing it right, but how about you do this? Add a little something more to it, make it easier for yourself. Moving on to 13. A server and regional manager are standing at the pickup window. Run those plates that just came up. Those aren't my plates, not my job. You don't have a job. Get your stuff and go. pretty much, if you're in food, nope. Your job, even if you're the server, you have no say but to do what's asked. You're a servant in food services. Therefore, it is your job to make sure you serve to the customers. Number 14. I had a coworker get picked for a random drug test. She went back to the desk to grab her purse and just left the building, never to return. Excuse me. Number 15. New line cook thought it'd be funny to walk around like Edward Scissorhands with all the knives. He was right around the corner as a server was coming through, and she almost got. New line cook just chuckled and waved his knife hands around more until the GM strode up right behind him, grabbed him by the collar, and marched him right out the back door. All this happened in under 5 minutes. And sometimes it's by design. Sometimes when you work for, say, a bank that has a set goal of, say, X number of accounts open per person, which is more than what the current average is, and then the bank starts putting so much pressure on employees to get this done that the employees start doing absolutely anything to get it done, like cheating the system and opening accounts and juggling money among them without anyone knowing, but the coins still clink in the bank's favor. And then they get axed anyway while management got payouts for a job well done. Number 16. Was training this teenage guy who on his first day came super high. His first customer, he said to the lady, he was like, "Man, these are some huge knockers you're carrying," was fired immediately. Number 17. I fired someone who decided her second day and she was going out to go to lunch, not come back. Next morning, she told everyone all about the shopping she did. She seemed confused about the expectations. Number 18. The boss sat her down to talk about her recent behavior at work. She whipped out her phone and started taking a video, saying it was her right to record for when it goes to court. Well, I said, okay, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. You're fired. Does that Domino's? Yeah, this is the reason why. If ever I'm using my phone, it's never to look at stuff on YouTube. But I always use it for reference. I'm like, well, what were you going to say? Well, I'm looking this up that you're wondering about. Oh, here it is. Da-da-da-da-da-da. It's like the other night, I was over at my godparents' house. Of course, every time I go over there, I spend the entirety of the night working on something with them. And what happens? I come back late, and I catch one video on YouTube, and then I go to bed. But point is, whenever a question pops up, I go instantly to my phone and just start checking. Like, you want me to look it up or not look it up? But, sometimes I'll look it up. And not without asking. It's like, well, let me just give you, I just share that little bit of info that I found. So, well, seems here, da-da-da-da-da-da. Bam. But at work, I don't use it to say, oh, hey y'all, this is Izzy here. I don't go like, TikTok or some kind of shit. Yeah, I'm on YouTube, sure. But thing is, I use my social media for the good of men, not the stupid of men. But even smart people can get fired. No, I'm sorry. That's not smart. That's just being an ass. After all, business is subject to things like market fluctuations and supply and demand and other economic forces, so this can inevitably lead to mass firings. Other times, smart people become victims of a CFO budget target mentality, where the most effective way to cut costs is to let people go. People who cost the most regardless of their actual benefit. Yeah, but that's also a problem. And you don't have to be smart. You can be simple, and it just happens. Number 19. One day Tim announced that he wasn't paid enough and was going to basically sit at his desk doing nothing until he was paid what he wanted. 20 minutes later, boss walked in and asked Tim if he could have a word with him. 5 minutes later, boss walked back in and announced that Tim no longer worked there, and if there were any questions, there were none. This is why, you should never complain about the job you get. If you get hired, be thankful you got hired to do something. Even if it's the most simplest of things you can do, be thankful you got hired. Bad enough the world in itself is still struggling over COVID or, post-COVID. It's like we're trying to get normalcy back up and running. So therefore, that's what you need to do. Just keep it going. So you can't do that? Get the fuck out. Number 20. We have a set of movable stairs like they have in supermarkets. Goes about 2.5 meters in the air. Old mate decided to vigorously shake and move it while another co-worker was on it as a joke. He was on suspension immediately and stayed there until he was officially fired and the 2-week notice ran out. 21. Working at Domino's and one of the late night drivers bought their PS4 in and started playing Mortal Kombat on the security camera monitor. Yeah, fire immediately. You ain't fired, you fired. That's F-I-R-D. Not fired, fired. This is besides factors like bosses being incompetent narcissists who exploit crises to cover their own mistakes by finding scapegoats. Nobody's safe from that. So even if the smart people don't stand a chance sometimes, the chances are even thinner for those who don't even have the mental capacity to stand up or even see it coming. Well, unless there's one reality that might just save them. 22. Someone finally lost their shit at the photocopier. It's fairly new, but regularly causes issues, lost jobs, printed on the wrong paper, and so forth. They unplugged it at the wall, opened the door to the fire stairs, and pushed the photocopier down the stairs. The noise and the mess, color toner spread over 5 floors worth of stairs caught everyone's attention. They were escorted out by security immediately. It's always the quiet ones you have to watch out for. Nobody expected from her. That's what they said about me in high school. There's always the quiet ones you have to watch out for. I think I told this story before, but for those who are new and don't know, well, high school to me was a challenge, especially in my borderline senior year. Okay? So, for those who don't know, I have been going through life as, with a disability. So, it wasn't easy for me during most of my life, especially during school. I had it rough in elementary because of my left side. And since, I have a visible limp, I literally have to walk around with it. That means it feels like I'm walking with a crutch, but I don't walk with crutches or anything like that. But the problem is, I am the target of many a bully that will want to get on me just because I walk like this. So the thing would be, I would get into fights just to defend myself. And mind you, I'm not the one triggering a fight. I'm the target, so therefore I have to defend myself. That's the only thing my dad taught me to do. When he was alive, he taught me the one thing that I should always learn how to do: defend myself if somebody gets in my face. So very few times when somebody got in my face, I defended myself. Junior high was the only time I actually really defended myself because I was more of an outcast in junior high. I only had a small batch of friends, and you know, we had our hideouts under the bungalows, and you know, around the bungalows. If not in the bungalows, it was around the bungalows, or some place that had shade. You know, high school. Of course, I had a batch of friends. They were like me. They all had disabilities in some way. And the one thing I remember was in my senior year, I got picked on in Spanish class. All because of one thing. The village idiot was in charge while the teacher was gone to do something for the principal. Here's the thing. He kept picking on me. I'm doing nothing but doing my work. I am literally just trying to finish off my assignment. He's lording over me because, you know, he's quote unquote the teacher. I'm the smart guy, quote unquote. He's the idiot. He's lording his pressure over me, and I'm like, if you don't get out of my face, please, I'm asking you, get out of my face. Do not get in my face. You're disrespecting me right now. He had 5 seconds to get out of my face. If he didn't, there was going to be war. So, those 5 seconds pass. I yeeted him across the room. Threw him across a couple of desks. And mind you, I tried to throw him, but it was more like a giant swing toss than, say, an overhead throw. Look, I got a left side that doesn't have as much power as my right, but still, it does what it needs to do. Throw him right across the room. He backed up, had a bunch of witnesses. They saw me do it, but guess what? I found out something very, very important. The guy was a 9th grader. Held back for 3 years. Teacher came back. I quote unquote took the L. Mom came in. Because of what happened. Not because I threw him, but what I did during the throw. Which was I broke his cheap ass little necklace. We went in. We were told to pay for damage to the necklace. It was $20. My mom looked at me. I said, "That's what happened." I said, "Oh, that's what happened." So we looked at the principal and said, "Okay, well, okay, here's the $20." We were waiting for the other party to show up. The other party never showed up. Then on, it was a thing during my last years of high school. I strangely got a nickname out of it, as well as a strange ass reputation from it. My nickname back then was Is Dog. Strangely, my English teacher in 5th period just heard the news, and it just like generated like wildfire. I'm pretty sure nobody will remember it to this very day. Moving moving on. Number 23. I can laugh about it now because, like, I never got, I didn't really take the L for it. It's like, I took responsibility for what I did, yes, but I never got, I never had, any beef with anybody at that high school I went to. By the way, it's called Washington Prep. I could tell you. Like, people would look at me like, well, you could stand out. I was like, no. I said, look, I didn't want to deal with high school. Because I had enough going on in my life. I said, high school, I just wanted to get through it. I said, that's all. I just wanted to get through high school. I was in my... I was going through my teen angst. It never stopped until, you know, say, until 25. Number 23. When I was a teen, see, look at this shit. I worked at a restaurant as a hostess. They hired this guy who was 20 to work with me as another host. Anyways, first day comes in work, his hour training shift, and manager, and asked the manager to use his cell phone so he can call his mom to get him. Around 2004, so cell phones weren't as common as now. Manager thinks nothing of it and gives him his phone. He then just walked out immediately and left his phone. Manager had to call his mom, and she brought it back a few hours later saying he has a bad habit of forgetting things and not to fire him, and he got fired anyways. Was the quickest I've seen anyone get fired. I sometimes become forgetful, but not to that point in which I forget my own goddamn phone. Number 24. Worked at a lotteries company. Guy worked in testing, got access to production data, and printed off some test tickets with some unclaimed winning numbers. He only did low amounts, like $500, and claimed 3 of them in 3 completely different locations around town. Of course, the company was really, really interested in the story of someone who found a 6-month-old lottery ticket and claimed it. But they were even more interested to find it was the same person going to 3 locations. Needless to say, when they realized the guy actually worked in the company, he got pulled into a room with cops awaiting him. I don't know why. It reminds me so much of back in the day during the Mark Goodson years of game shows. My thoughts turn to Super Password. If not Super Password, press your luck. Of course, that was a Mark Goodson game show. That was Bill Carruthers. Sometimes bad employees don't get fired. Maybe the manager can't bring themselves to have the hard conversation that should lead to Maybe the manager can't bring themselves to have the hard conversation that should lead to letting the employee go. They might also be hoping that the employee leaves on their own without a need to tackle the situation altogether. Number 25. I worked at a bar and there was a bartender everybody liked. She made herself a drink while working, which was not allowed. Manager walks up. What's that? My drink. You're fired. Yeah, if you're going to do that on your own time, not on the company time. Just saying. Number 26. Guy at my job went on vacation Friday before Thanksgiving and the whole week of Thanksgiving. The whole week of Thanksgiving. Only he wasn't approved. Boss literally told him if you don't come in tomorrow, you'll be fired because your vacation was never approved. Guy didn't show up Friday. Walked into the office today like nothing happened and was told to hand over his keys and company phone and to get off the property immediately. Didn't understand why he was fired. There you go. Number 27. At my first job, the dishwasher walked out into the dinner parlor and announced to all customers that a contagious disease has been making its way through the kitchen. Owner was in the building, dragged the guy out, front door by the wrist, and apologized to the customers. This was 2008. left out the crucial tidbit that it was fabricated. Nobody was sick at all. If conditions are different, the manager might not let someone go because having any employee is better than having no employee. Hiring new people takes a lot of time, money, and energy. Sometimes it's just not worth it. But it can be as simple as just feeling sorry for any employee. It's normal for people to feel compassion for someone who's about to lose their job. But while that's good, it shouldn't mean that everyone else who has to deal with the bad employee has to suffer through it. That's true. Number 28. Interview a guy that was replacing someone who was leaving. Offered the job and was supposed to start the next day. Just so happened that we were having a go-away party for to do that night, so new guy was invited as a chance to get to know the team. New guy shows up and proceeds to get absolutely shit-faced and asks the head of HR if she wanted to go back to his place because he got a vibe during the interview process. Next day. New guy's no-show, so we were thinking bullet dodged. Shows up just before lunch, clearly hungover, making up some excuse for being late. Big boss came out, told the guy to get the fuck out. 29. I was working at a place that made food items. You can have as many of these as you like at work, but can only take one home with you. Guy gets hired and takes advantage of this and consumes a bucket load of these items at work, which is fine. That's the deal. He then goes leave for the day, and security asks to check his bag. Hesitates and asks security if they could just check it tomorrow. Say no. Says, I do have some items in there. Haven't left the site yet. Gotta put them in your fridge. Security relents and lets him do this. Security then checks the fridge, and there are 18 items in there that wasn't there before. Guy is immediately terminated, lost his job over $8 worth of products. Number 30. Guy got hired in his first firm I ever worked for. Turns up for the first morning at work, and within an hour, he has emailed the entire company, 6,000 people, about his band and their availabilities for birthdays, weddings, and so forth. Was dismissed by lunchtime, answering the questions and the replies about how anyone junior could have access to all users' address. This was back in about 94, shortly after email. It was called MS Mail, I think. Assumed the precursor to Outlook. Was rolled out within the company. I remember not having a work email address when I joined. Don't think the IT department had yet got up to speed on what could go wrong, letting everyone have access to everything. We got 3 more to go. Number 31. Showed up to work too late, laughing about how she had overslept as she'd been partying the night before. Tried to just start working like that was okay, and like she hadn't been constantly oversleeping for a while. Same coworker also ruined her company computer by spilling iced coffee over it. Oh, damn. I think it was just over a month into employment. Before she was let go, she told everyone she left as it wasn't the right environment for her mental health. Hasn't worked since. Number 32. Found a stray cat while on break. Proceeds to put said cat into a box. Places it under his desk to take home. We were working at a call center, so people weren't questioning where the meowing was coming from. When management found him with his cat, his excuse was, I didn't know I couldn't have pets here. Was gone before lunch on his first shift. And the last one. That was a cute cat, by the way. Server I worked with was adding in her credit card tips and adding a quarter to every tip to charge on the card. Couple people every now and then would notice on their bank statement, and it got to a point where management vetted her receipts one night and the tips she would enter in and send her packing ASAP. And that, my friends, is 33 of the fastest ways people have seen their co-workers get fired. I swear to you, Nothing can make my day much more funnier than finding weird shit you can actually find on the internet, and they don't have to be memes or something or something that's from the dank side of YouTube. They could be something like this, and it could be coming from MSN or Bing or whatever. And all I'm doing is just reading news that's actually funny instead of something miserable. But hey, that's how I like to see things sometimes. Gotta see the funny side of a sometimes awful situation. But of course, that's just me. Don't know about the rest of you, but I know it's just me. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time with more strange and funny content.